You're listening to the Music Tech Teacher Podcast, episode number 30. Welcome to the Music Tech Teacher Podcast. Music tech tips, lesson ideas, advice, news, and interviews, especially for music teachers. Brought to you by midnightmusic.com.au. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Music Tech Teacher Podcast. I'm your host Katie Wardrobe from midnightmusic.com.au, the place for music teachers to get the help they need with using technology in music education. It's also the home of the Midnight Music community where you can find music tech online courses, video tutorials, tips and personalised support. For more information about the community and a special offer for podcast listeners, go to midnightmusic.com.au/podcast offer. I'm back today with another solo episode, and today I thought I'd talk about creating your own video tutorials. This is something I've been doing for a number of years, and I kind of fell into it by accident, or out of necessity, I should say, because I was, teaching a lot of things to do with music technology. And I found that I really needed to make some video tutorials that could be accessed anywhere, anytime by people, rather than them having to be in the same place with me doing a workshop or live online doing things at specific times. So video tutorials have been fantastic, and it's great because, if you've got the same sorts of questions popping up all the time, like I often do, it's fantastic to make a video and then point people to that video so that you're not explaining the same thing over and over and over again. Now, this type of tutorial is something that can be used in all areas of life, really. And whether you're running a business like I am, where you're, teaching people how to use technology, or whether you're teaching in a classroom situation, I am convinced that all of you out there who are, practicing music teachers working with students, I know that you would get the same questions over and over again. So it can be really good use of time to make some sort of video and make use of that with the students. And I'm going to give you a few different examples of things that you can use video tutorials for. So in the session today, I want to talk about how to actually create video tutorials, why you might want to create them in the first place and what you can use them for. I'm going to talk about the two main types of videos, and one of them is where you don't actually have to be on camera yourself. And I'll talk a little bit about how to make them, so the equipment that you might need, and there's very minimal equipment really, and also the software that you might need to use to make the videos as well. So let's start off with the why. Now, as I said before, I reckon videos are awesome. And for one reason, you can actually kind of like clone the teacher. So having a video recording of you teaching something allows you to be freed up to be in two places at once, as it was. Now, this fits in quite well to that flipped classroom model where students might watch a video ahead of time and then come to class for the creative part. You can also flip your classroom in other ways where perhaps you teach a concept and also have a video version of yourself teaching it, or you can even create the video on the spot during class time. Doing things that way means that students can go back to the video recording of your teaching at any time. So they might watch it once live with you there in the classroom, and then students that have missed the lesson or perhaps didn't understand the concept in the first place, or who need some, refresher time learning again the concept or the song or whatever it is that you videoed, can go back to the video and see it at their own pace and watch it there. It's a great thing to do to save yourself a little bit of time. And if you've got a video that you can send students to, it allows you the time to go and work with other students actually in person, while some of the students are still watching the video to catch up on the concept that way. Now, you can use videos for lots and lots of different things. So I know of teachers who are using videos to teach new notes on the recorder, for example. A friend of mine, Cherie Herring, who is in the States, she has a fantastic blog and website where she talks all about the way that she uses video in the classroom, and she has some excellent resources on the flipped classroom model that she uses. And one of the things that she's been doing over the years is to teach students how to play notes on the recorder, so that when students are racing ahead, and have learnt all the notes that she's taught in class, they can still go ahead and learn new ones afterwards. And of course, students can go back and refresh their memory on how to play notes if they haven't sort of understood in the first place. So that's been a great way that she's been able to free up her very limited class time in doing recorder sessions with, I think it's her grade 4 students, because she can use the videos to teach the new notes or refresh the new notes for some students, and that gives her the time to go around the class and help other students with other things or to assess their work. Now, you could also use video to record yourself teaching songs or games, hand clapping games perhaps that you're doing in class time. And this means that you could potentially leave these videos for a substitute teacher. So the substitute may or may not have music skills, as we know, and this is a great way for you to continue to do some sort of musical activity even when the substitute teacher is there. You can get them to play the video of you running through the song or the game or the actions or whatever it is, and you can continue the music stuff even if you're not present in class. Videos are also fantastic for things like teaching how to put a PA together, for instance, or some other equipment. So you might need students to refer to that at different times. And again, that's a great way. It's so much better than writing out instructions for them, which may or may not be read. I'm guessing probably won't be read. Having a video there to watch really quickly and easily is a much better way to take in some types of information. So once again, I think that's a great use of video. I've used videos a lot over the years to teach people how to use software programs. So I've recorded my screen showing a software program, and that's been a great thing. I've also recorded myself just talking to camera about different concepts and so on too. Of recent times, I've actually been running a number of Facebook Live sessions, and that essentially is me creating a video right on the spot in front of everybody live. It's a little bit like living on the edge sometimes. You never know quite what's going to happen during the session, but they seem to have been going okay, and I really like that. They're great because you have no opportunity to edit yourself, so you just have to kind of go with the flow, which is a good thing at times. You don't spend so much time thinking about things or overthinking what you're doing. So that's some reasons for creating them in the first place. And as I said, over the years, I've done this quite a lot, and you get much better at it the more you do it. So one of my tips, if you're thinking about testing this out and you've never done any video creation in the past, definitely try and do it a lot of times. The first few are going to be terrible, and that's okay. Maybe they're not. Maybe they'll be great the first time, but I found my first few were definitely not so great. So I want to talk about 2 different types of video tutorials that you can create. The first one is where you're a live person. I'm calling it the live person type of video, where you're standing in front of a camera and talking or singing or acting or doing whatever thing it is to the camera, and the camera is pointed at you and you're on the screen. Now, this type of video terrifies people to some degree, and I used to get quite nervous about them. I'm less so now, again, and really for me it's because I've just done a lot of them over the years. But basically you can use this to demonstrate playing or singing or actions. If you're a studio instrumental teacher or a band leader or a conductor, you could demonstrate specific things on certain instruments. So how to do some kind of technique, how to do fingering, how to play a certain note, how to hold the bow, how to show a great piano hand position for, if you're a piano teacher, all of those sorts of things. So they're the live person type videos. Now, the other type of video is where you don't actually have to be on the screen, and this might be a great starting point. If you're a little bit nervous about doing this and getting in front of the camera, you can actually make lots and lots of tutorial videos without ever appearing on screen yourself. And for these ones, this would be the sort where you have a screen showing, like your laptop screen, and it might be showing presentation software like PowerPoint or Keynote, and you can just show information on the screen, images or text or even videos. Within the video that you're creating, you might show a video to demonstrate something. And This can be a great way just to dip your toe in the water. So all you're doing is showing the slides of your PowerPoint presentation, and you can talk over the top of that. So it's just like you're giving a presentation live in front of people, but you're just talking into your microphone and talking through and showing the slides. Now you can also use this type of tutorial where you're showing your screen only to create software tutorials. And I'll talk a little bit about how you do that, but essentially you would have something showing on the screen like, say, GarageBand as an example, and you might be showing students how they're going to set up a new project, how to add a track, how to record a keyboard part, how to record their voice and so on. And you can just have GarageBand showing. You don't actually have to have anything else showing like your face. And that can be a great way to sort of dip your toe into this sort of area of creating video tutorials. In this same sort of area are ones where you might record also your iPad screen or your phone screen or your other tablet screen. And there are ways that you can do that quite easily. And again, it might be because you're showing someone how to use the app that's on your iPad. And then there are also some apps which have inbuilt video recording to them as well. I'll talk a little bit more about those in a moment, but those are great options if you don't really want to get on camera yourself. So let's go back to the live person videos and we'll talk through the sorts of equipment that you might need, the type of video editing software if you're going to edit the video that you've made. And you don't necessarily have to, but I'll talk through some options in case you do want to. And then I'll talk about the other type of videos and the same sorts of things there. So with the live person videos, in terms of equipment, the thing that I use the most to record my videos is my iPhone. And there's a simple reason for that, and that is because it's with me all the time and it's super easy. It's just there, you open the camera app, you hit video and you press record and you go. And it's really that easy. I find this is the best option for me because it's so handy. I actually have a DSLR camera which can take videos too. They would probably be slightly better quality than the smartphone ones, but you know, it seems ridiculous, but it's a hassle getting it out and setting it up and so on. And so for that reason, I've just decided I'm just going to use my iPhone because it's so much easier. And it's something that, you know, most people have a smartphone or a tablet device that will do video recordings. Now, there's a couple of things that I always use to go with my device to make the video a little bit better quality. Actually, not just a little bit, a lot better quality. And a lot of the videos that I've made, you probably wouldn't even guess that they were made on my phone because I've taken a couple of steps to make them look better quality. So the two main things are to make sure that your device is stable and still at all times. And this is one of the easiest things to fix or to change, and it's one of the most effective in terms of the end result and the way the video looks. So what you want to do is get something for your device, whether it's a smartphone or a tablet device of some sort. You want something to hold it into place and to hold it steady and at the right height. So I use a tripod. It's my normal regular camera tripod. So if you walk into a camera shop and you just buy a tripod, that's what I'm using to hold mine still. You can get even little desktop tripods as well. There are lots of those around. Any camera shop will be able to help you out there. Now, the thing that you need to get in addition to the little tripod itself or the large tripod, I've got a bigger tripod, like a regular one that I would use for my DSLR camera. The thing that I bought in addition to that is a small clip that goes onto the top of the tripod, and that's what holds the phone in place on the tripod. Now that clip was about, $15 or $20 on Amazon somewhere, and it's just one that is adjustable, so it doesn't really matter what size phone I have, it will adjust with the size. So some of the little clips that you buy or adapter thingies are designed for specific phone models, and some of them are a little bit more flexible. So just go and look for whichever one's going to suit your model of phone. And I can recommend getting a flexible sized one because I've changed phones over the last couple of years. I've gone from the iPhone 5 to the 7, and the 7 is a bit bigger, but I can still use the same clip because it's got some room to move there. So all I do is screw that into the top of the tripod. The clip that you'll buy has a standard fitting on the bottom of it, which is fits the same, it matches the standard fitting which is on all the tripods that the cameras usually screw into. So highly recommend that, not very expensive and a really good way to make your videos more professional looking. So once the clip is there, I just hook the phone into it and I make sure that the phone is at the right level for my eyes or, whatever it is I'm doing. Sometimes I'm sitting, sometimes I'm standing, and so on. If you've got a small desktop tripod, again, you can prop that up on books if you need to be higher. If you're in a music practice room or rehearsal studio or something like that, you might have an upright piano that can sit on top of. If you don't have any sort of tripod, at least try and prop it up in a stable position, with some books or something like that, and make sure the angle looks okay. You want your face to be in the picture. You don't want to be too far away, and you also don't want to be too close as well. You want to make sure you're showing, whatever it is that you need to show in that video. So if it's a hand clapping game, you want to make sure that your hands can be seen and so on. Now, the second thing, in addition to making your device stable, the second thing I would really recommend is, if you can, some kind of microphone that plugs into your device. Now, this is not, absolutely essential, but it's going to lift the quality of your videos a lot. Now, there's been some research done, and I should track down the source of this, but there's some research somewhere which says that the thing that puts people off watching videos the most is actually the sound, the audio in the video, not the picture. So people will put up with a bad image or maybe a shaky image more so than bad audio. Bad audio is the thing that turns people off the most. So, and because we're all musicians, of course the audio is going to be important anyway. So again, I can highly recommend buying some kind of microphone to plug into your device. Now, I have a few options, and I've talked about microphones in other episodes and on my blog and so on. But if you're working with a smartphone or an iPad tablet device, there are some little lapel style microphones that you can buy. Now, I've had in the past a Rode Smart Lav, and I'll put all the links to things that I'm going to mention in the show notes for this episode, so you don't need to write them down as you're on your walk or whatever, wherever you're listening to this right now. But the Rode Smart Lav is one option. That's around, I think from memory, around $60 or $70. Recently, I've bought a much more inexpensive one called a Boya microphone. It's Boya. And that one, I think, was around $20 or so. For me here in Australia, I had to pay postage and stuff, so it ended up being 30 something, but it was still really inexpensive. The benefit of the Boya over the Rode Smart Lav is that the Boya microphone has a really long lead and a cable, so that you can plug it into your phone and stand quite a distance back from your phone and still have the microphone attached to you, which I found really good. The biggest issue I had with the Rode one is that the length of that cable was much too short, and it was just getting irritating. So the Boya one is really quite useful and great price. So if you're going to test this out, that's a great one to get. So that's really good if it's just you kind of singing or talking into the camera. You can clip the lapel mic to you. There might be some types of videos you're making where you need to pick up more noise from the surrounding area, and in which case you might want to look at some other options. So I've got things like USB microphones, which will plug into my devices through a little adapter. That can be also really useful too. So I've talked a bit about the position of the camera, make it a distance away from you. A more flattering angle for those that care is looking slightly down on you, not upwards, no double chins, all that sort of stuff. So I tend to have mine at my eye height, depending on whether I'm standing or sitting, and that seems to work quite well. The other thing to consider, and you don't want to spend too much time fussing around with all these things, but one other great thing to consider is just the location that you're in and the lighting of that location. So obviously you don't want to be in a noisy place. That's can go unsaid, but the lighting can be important too. So I have a couple of spots in my house which I always make my videos in, basically next to a window or a glass sliding door, but that has a bit of sort of filtered light. So in my office area, I've got a nice front window which lets in a really nice amount of light, but it's got one of those sheer curtains over the top, so it's a bit softened. It's not too bright, not too many shadows, and that seems to work quite well. Now, my tip with doing any video stuff is to press record, do a little test of something, and then stop the video and play it back. You must do that, because I've had times in the past where I haven't done that. And, you do a great video, you're really happy, and you play it back and something like the sound wasn't working, whatever it is, I can't remember. It might be maybe your head's out of the shot or something like that, and you just didn't realize. So just make sure that you do a little test and play it back. When I'm using my smartphone or my iPad to do recordings, I always have it in that selfie mode, so I can see myself in the camera and I can pretty much keep track of, whether I'm in the shot enough for what I'm talking about and showing. The other thing is, if you want to lift your game a little bit as well, and again, it's not a big deal, but when you're videoing yourself in that selfie mode, it's really good to work out where the actual camera is on your device, because the camera on my iPhone is a tiny pinhole to the left or the right, depending on which way you've got the phone. And, it's not you. If you look at yourself in the camera, in the actual phone itself, you're actually not making eye contact with people, which sounds a bit weird, but, you can kind of get used to trying to look at that little pinhole camera spot, and that will give you a great result. But again, if you're not, it's not a big deal. So after you've made your video on your phone or your tablet device, or even if you are using a DSLR camera, you can then at that point edit the video if you want to, or not. You might just do quick and dirty ones where you just get it done and it doesn't need editing and you're not fussed about it. I'm often just at least chopping off the beginning and the end of the video. So it'll be the bit where I'm pressing record and you can see me lean back and then get into position and then start the teaching bit. And then at the very end, I might be leaning forward to press the stop button. I chop those bits off. If you don't have time to do that, I don't think it's a big deal. Just go for it anyway. So there are a couple of options for editing videos. So I'll talk mostly about, ones where you've made things on your smartphone or your tablet. Basically, you can get apps which will allow you to edit those videos. You can do some really basic editing in the camera app itself. And the other option is to actually transfer the video that you've made on your device onto your laptop instead and do the editing there. Now that's what I've done because I use some software on my Mac, and basically I'll create the video on my iPhone and then send it across to my Mac via, usually through Dropbox or some other option like that, AirDrop for instance, and then I'll do the editing on my laptop. If you're just doing really basic, simple editing, you could totally do everything on your device and not have to transfer it at all. So you can keep it quite simple that way. Now, in terms of software, there are a number of apps. I won't go into lots of app options because there are just so many ones out there. Just test out a couple. If you find one you like, that's great. There are free ones, there are paid ones, all sorts of things. In terms of software on your laptop, you can use even free things like iMovie on a Mac or Windows Movie Maker if you're on a PC, and both of those are great. You can get more fancy with paid options for software like Final Cut Pro on a Mac, or there's Sony Vegas or Pinnacle Studio, which are lower end options for PC users, and they're less than $100, maybe in the sort of $60 range or so. So that's only if you need to sort of get a bit more fancy with your video editing, and that's something to explore. I wouldn't jump into buying super expensive video editing software straight away unless you're really, really going to need it. There's so much that you can do even with the free and low cost options there. This episode of the Music Tech Teacher podcast is brought to you by the Midnight Music Community. The Midnight Music Community is an online space for music teachers who'd like help using technology in their music lessons. There are online courses, video tutorials, lesson plans, music tech news, and professional development certificates are provided for any training that you undertake. I'm inside the community every day, personally answering members' questions and sharing tips and ideas. The best thing is that you get to connect with hundreds of other music teachers just like you and share your own experiences and occasional music tech frustrations. For more information and a special joining price just for the listeners of this podcast, visit midnightmusic.com.au/podcast offer. That's midnightmusic.com.au/podcast offer. So let's talk about recording your screen, those style of videos. So instead of you appearing on camera, you're just going to record your screen of your device or your laptop. So these are the ones, as I mentioned before, these are the ones that I would do for creating software tutorials. So, they show some sort of software program, and basically when you video yourself showing the software program, it will show you moving your mouse and clicking and opening menus and doing whatever it is that you're showing in that software program. And you can talk over the top as well. So these are great. You can just, click around and say, to do this, you'll click here on the file menu and then go to open and then do this. And you do that while you're actually doing it on the screen. And it's like a total walkthrough. It's like you're showing it to students on a data projector. It's fantastic. Now, the other type that I mentioned earlier was those presentation style videos where, again, you're just showing PowerPoint or Keynote slides. And if you've prepared them ahead of time, you can just show them on the screen and record yourself switching the slides as you talk over the top. Now, on the iPad, you can record the iPad screen. If you're showing someone how to use an app, there's actually software that will allow you to record your iPad screen. So again, I'll just use GarageBand as the example here. If you had opened up the GarageBand app on your iPad, there's software that you can use which will actually record yourself adding tracks or changing things or playing a keyboard part. And you can see all of that happening in the video itself. So that's one type of way of recording your iPad screen. The other type of way that you might want to use the iPad is actually to use an app which has an inbuilt video option. So I'm thinking here apps like Explain Everything, which is basically like a whiteboard app, or it's a presentation app of sorts in itself too. You can open up Explain Everything. It's a white screen. You can do things like adding text and adding images and changing the size of things and drawing. You can draw on the screen. So if you've got a white background, you can draw with your finger freely on the screen and demonstrate something like how to draw a treble clef. And in Explain Everything itself, it actually has a record function. So those videos that you see online sometimes, and I'm thinking if any of you know the maths teaching videos of the video website that I've completely forgotten, what's it called? Nope. Completely gone from my mind. Anyway, hopefully you'll know the one I'm talking about, basically where there's basically a screen, it's white or even a black background, and you can see someone drawing on the screen maths problems, and you can see them working them through, and they're talking through the problem as they're doing it. You can do this sort of style of video with Explain Everything, and instead of maths concepts, you can be talking through music concepts instead. So you could do things like draw time signatures and explain to students how many beats there are in a 4/4 bar and how to draw a treble clef, the style and the shape of the clef and where you need to start and where you need to finish and so on. Really, really good. The thing that I've done in there as well is that you can import images to draw over the top of. So one of the most common examples here for music teachers would be to import a stave into Explain Everything. And you can basically have the stave showing and then draw over the top of that to demonstrate things like which direction stems should go in for different note heads on the stave. So really great way to create tutorial videos. Once you've pressed record and Explain Everything, everything that you do on the screen will be shown. So you're drawing, you're adding the image if you want to show that part as well. All of that will be shown, and you can talk over the top too, and it will record your voice explaining as you go. So great app, one of my favorite apps for the iPad, and it's also available across different platforms too. Now, for equipment that you need to create these videos where you're recording your screen, obviously you need your device. So that might be your smartphone, your tablet, your laptop. And again, it's really good to make sure that the sound is good. So again, if you can use a microphone that plugs in to your laptop, for instance, that will lift the quality of your sound immensely. Like it's a big difference. If you don't have a microphone, not the end of the world. Just make sure that the surrounding environment is not too noisy, and you'll still be heard with the inbuilt microphone. But it's just going to be a lot nicer for people watching the video if you have got some kind of microphone you can plug in. This one's great, this style of video, because lighting doesn't matter and the environment other than, the sound doesn't matter either. So you can kind of make these anywhere, anytime, and they're quite useful and quick and easy to make if once you get into the swing of it. Now, software options for creating your own video tutorials which show your screen are screencasting software programs. So there's lots of different options here, and I'm not going to list too many. I'll just give you a few options that you can use to test it out if you want to. And the screencasting software, that the name of this type of video tutorial is actually called a screencast, where you're casting your screen, casting your screen, and there's special software that allows you to do that. So it is actually video editing software, but it has this extra function of being able to record your screen as well. Now, the one that I use, because I'm on a Mac, the one that I use is Screenflow, which is a fantastic program. It's around the $100 mark or so. And there's an equivalent called Camtasia, which is great for PC users. I also have that if I need to make videos on my PC machine instead. Both of those are really great. Camtasia is quite a bit more expensive than Screenflow. Make sure, if you're looking at that one, make sure that you are getting the education price when you buy that, because they have an education one there. Camtasia also, just by the way, you might just want to check at your school, and perhaps this is true of Screenflow too. I have found at some of the schools that I've visited to run workshops that Camtasia is occasionally a software application that the school has purchased for all the teachers to use and even students to use. Sometimes it may not be the case, but just perhaps go and chat to your IT person and see if they have any options for you that you can use that's there already. Now, there are some free screencasting software options as well, and 3 of the ones that I've used quite a bit in the past include Jing, J-I-N-G, Jing, Screencastify, and Screenomatic. Now, Jing is software that you can download for free onto your machine and use it that way. Screencastify and Screenomatic are in the browser options, so you'll visit their website and you can use the software there. Now, with the free ones, pretty much all of the free ones are limited in the time length that you can use for your tutorial videos. So you can usually record up to 5 minutes with the free versions. With the paid options like Screenflow that I use, I can do any length of tutorial. Having 5-minute limitation is not the end of the world though, because if you've got a video that you want to make which is longer than that, you're probably better off splitting it up into part 1 and part 2 anyway, because the attention span of anyone, adults and students included, is best, if it's less than 5 minutes, it's probably going to be a better thing anyway. So I would definitely consider splitting up into part 1 and part 2 if you've got a longer teaching thing. Now, I'm going to just warn you that particularly with the free ones, there is another limitation that you need to consider, and that is that a lot of the free ones don't actually record the system audio. This is the audio coming out of your computer. Now, the only reason that this is worth mentioning is that as musicians, if you're using music software, say you're using Sibelius or Finale and you're creating a video about one of those, or GarageBand that I mentioned, or any of the other digital audio workstation type software, they produce music. The computer itself produces sound. So, for instance, if you were playing back a Sibelius score or entering notes into Finale, when you enter a note, you hear that note play. Now, some of these screencasting options don't record that type of audio. They'll only record the audio going into the computer, which is your voice, your talk, your voice over. So just be aware of that, and that's something you need to look for. So the terminology, if you're looking at, what features they have, you're looking for something that does record system audio. Sometimes it's just referred to as computer audio. So check that out. Jing, that I've used quite a bit in the past, does record system audio, so it's a good one. But Jing also has a limitation in the type of file that it will produce, and it's an unusual file type. It doesn't play on all devices. At last count, it doesn't play on iPads, so you just need to check that the output is also suitable too. So there's a few things there to explore, but if you're doing a straight up talking video over the top of your PowerPoint presentation or something, Screencastify or Screenomatic would be good options there. Once again, with this type of recording, when you're doing your screen, again, do a test and play it back before you launch into your big recording session of making tutorial videos. Otherwise, like me in the past, I've been sorry that I haven't done that. So do a little test, press stop, play it back, and just double check that everything's okay. So just to sum up, video really is an excellent option for teaching concepts and making yourself available at, in different ways to students. So, we talked about the fact that you can kind of be in two places at once almost. Students can go back to videos at any time. A friend of mine here in Australia, when he was teaching Year 8 girls in the classroom, he used to click record the first time he taught a concept and just record right then and there in class. And so there was no need to set aside a separate time to make videos, because in my head that becomes a big thing and it can become quite time consuming. But James used to just actually press record in the middle of class, record the first time he was teaching it to the group of students, and then save that video and make that available afterwards. Now, this is a really good thing. I really do think it's often best if you are teaching the concept the first time in person, because it's kind of better and it's more personal, and you can gauge, the understanding of students who are right there in front of you. But making an extra video, whether it's the recording of you teaching it then and there or later on, making that available to them as an additional thing, fantastic option. I would start with considering things that you teach all the time, every year or every week even, across many student groups. You don't want to be doing this for something you're only going to use once. That would be probably not a good use of time. But if there are things that you've been doing, in the same way, or you're teaching the same concepts all the time, this is a fantastic option. If you teach privately, it's a great thing to help parents out even in helping their students, or their kids, I should say, because you could do some demonstration videos which teach the concept. When the kids get home and are doing their practice and they have forgotten how to do something or how to play something, it's possible that you can give them access to a video that the parents can also watch and then help the student with. So that's just another great way to use video. I will say that I find videos much easier to make if I can do the setup of the equipment or software really quickly. I have a setup, because I'm doing a lot of recording all the time for podcasts, as in audio podcasts and also videos too. I've actually purchased, my favourite purchase of the past few months has been a boom arm for my microphone. It sounds so ridiculously, insignificant, but I bought this boom arm so it attaches to my desk, and my microphone is always plugged in now. I have it plugged in, and I just unplug it from my laptop if I don't need it plugged into the laptop. But the microphone itself is set up all the time, and I can't tell you how much easier it's been to record podcasts and to make videos and do Facebook Lives and all sorts of things, because it's just there set up and it's ready for me to go at any time. I also find that making videos, I'm much better if I make a few at once. So if I do one and get on a roll, I just find they're much easier to do than doing one and then leaving it for a week and then doing another single one. It's really good if you've got a few planned and just go for it and just do them one after the other really quickly. You'll get more into the swing. The first one you might be nervous, the second one a little less so, and the third one you won't be at all, and the fourth one you're having fun. So that's how it works for me anyway. Also, writing down your procedure or the things that you need to remember or do is a really good thing too. So I have a little checklist before I do any video or audio recording, where things like I turn off notifications on my phone, I silence it as well. I actually put it into, do not disturb mode. I make sure that things on my laptop are not switched on, like Skype, or I use a messaging system called Slack. I make sure those are shut down so that I'm not interrupted and I don't have to restart the recording again. Writing all of those things down in a checklist makes it super easy for you just to, go through that list in the future. Don't worry too much about perfection. You would know from these podcast episodes, I don't edit out all my mistakes by any means. Occasionally there might be, some parts that I will get rid of because it's just gone really wrong, but pretty much I leave them as is. And the benefit of that is that I'm not spending a lot of time editing afterwards. And I think people don't mind when it's a little bit imperfect, because it's more like you're just talking to someone. And the last thing is I would try it out, test it out with some students perhaps, and see if they respond well to having access to tutorial videos, or see if you can save yourself time by having access to these videos. You might find there's relief involved because you don't need to explain the same thing over and over and over. That's what I found over the years. So many frequently asked questions, literally frequently asked questions. I've been able to then point people to videos that I've got, and it just becomes so much easier to refer them to a link instead of always writing out an explanation or explaining it over and over again. So I hope you find that useful. I'd love to know if you give video tutorials a go and do it. It's also something that students can do, and particularly older students, this is a great way for them to actually present learning to you by using videos. And all of the things that I've said today about, the tips and the software and the equipment can apply also to students using video themselves in the classroom to show you what they know. And so that's another great thing to consider. The Music Tech Teacher podcast is hosted by me, Katie Wardrobe. You can find more information and links from today's episode at midnightmusic.com.au/30. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.